Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to create this. Notice I just double click it. It automatically opens up a ready to use I2PD browser. And earlier I talked about how to set it up with the Java as another shortcut. So you can have both of these shortcuts. You have a nice remote ready to use anytime I2PD, and then you have a use as needed Java I2P or I2P plus option as well. Now this one takes a little longer because it has to start up each time. And what's cool about this I2PD remote is we have it set up on a single board computer on the local area network. When I double click this, it automatically does the SSH forwarding for you, so it's ready to use anytime. So when I close this, it automatically reverses that SSH forwarding, the tunnel forwarding, to allow us to use it anytime, so you don't have to wait for this one. I'll try it once again. And as you can see, the terminal opens. You don't have to have the terminal open, but I just had it so we can monitor what's happening. And then I can use it right away. So anytime I want to use an I2PD ready-to-use browser setup, all I have to do is double-click this. It opens up, and it has been running for 2 days, so it's not going to take any time to be usable. So similar to how with Tor Browser you have something that is ready to use right away. And the reason we can do that in a peer-to-peer way like this is because we leave the I2PD router running 24 hours a day on a remote box. And basically I've used an ARM board, so a single board computer for this process. So I have a dedicated router for I2PD. So I'm going to go through everything I think you'll need to know to use this. If you noticed my previous video, I didn't talk about how you can automate it. So basically what it does is it uses SSH forwarding. So what you're going to want to do is first get I2PD. That's the very first step to this. And what I have it running on is a Raspberry Pi, which I've had set up for years. This is an ARM CPU, and so what I do is I actually have it running on another box that's on my local area network, so it's actually connected to the same network, so I can access it and use something called SSH forwarding. I'm going to try to make this as easy to understand as possible. So if this doesn't make sense, just watch what I do. I'll break down what I think you need to know, because I want everyone to be able to use this. I want everyone to be able to use I2P and I2PD. One of the nice things about I2P is part of the network design is to have all of the users and routers as trustless as is possible, as decentralized as can be done within reason. So what we need to do is first understand how this shortcut works. So let's go ahead and open it up in VIM. So the shortcut, here's the contents of the shortcut. Now what we have here is the execution line. It's going to execute this. So when I double click this shortcut here, it's going to execute this line here, start-I2P, and then the argument or the command for it is going to be remote. So that actually is going to run a command on the system called start-I2P. It's a script I actually wrote. So we can take a look at that as well while we're at it. To understand how it works, you don't need to understand all of this to follow this, but I do want to break it down for those who want to understand. So we can open that in an editor. Now, key point here is if you want this shortcut to always work, to always be reliable, what you're going to want to do is set your I2PD server to be a static IP address. Now, what does that mean? A static IP does not change. So if this is the IP address on the local network, not accessible internationally, it's just a local machine, a Raspberry Pi that runs I2PD. So I'm going to talk about this setup, and then I'm also going to talk you through where to get I2PD. So with this, I have this set to a static IP. It actually is this IP address, and I have SSH open. That's important if you want this to work, because see what it has here is SSH forwarding for various ports, and it is a login at this IP address. So we can see the IP address here, we can edit it and make it, and it may become a variable. So you'll see notes when I make updates to the start or the I2P-desktop, I'm going to put notes and comments around it so you can understand it better if any changes are made. But basically, you want to have the SSH login host here. You want to make it the IP address of your I2PD server. First, of course, you're going to need to get I2PD. So let's do that first. I actually have it, but I'm going to show you how you would get it. You would go to the GitHub. If you don't already have I2P, you can go in the Clearnet to GitHub/purple I2P/I2PD. I like to use both, all of them, all three really. Java, the I2P Plus. I like to use the I2PD. Go to releases here, and you can get it here. But what I recommend doing first, before even doing that, is just simply searching for it using the apt commands. Let's say you're running a Debian-based operating system. I already have it installed. How would I install it? Instead of downloading it from the GitHub, I would first try apt install I2PD, and then Y-flag is going to automatically install it for me. And that installs the same version. As I notice, it is 2.54.0. So I already have the latest version. But if you don't have it at all, you'd simply do apt install I2PD, and that will install it for you. Now, if you, for any reason, don't have it accessible to you on your operating system, that's not a problem. You can actually go down here on the releases page and download the one that's right for your operating system and hardware. So in my instance, I have a ARM HF. That is the architecture of the single board computer that I'm running here. So what I have, the operating system I have would need the bookworm, because I'm running bookworm, and I would need to find this one. So you just need to match this up with a compatible installation file. And I do recommend getting the .deb, or if you're on a Red Hat or Fedora based operating system, you're going to want to go with an RPM for those. But the .deb symbolizes Debian, so any Debian base is going to look for a .deb, and then the command you would use if you needed to do that, if you can't use the apt install command, is dpkg-i, which stands for install, and then you would simply type out the actual file. So if let's say I want to download it, let's just do an example here for anyone who's new to this, who doesn't know. Once you match up the right architecture, everything, you go to your temp directory or wherever you want. You can use the wget command to download it. And I'm just going to do a little demonstration just to show how you might actually install it. So it's actually downloading it right now for me. Once it downloads it, I can see it in the temp directory where I'm at. It's right here. This is the name of the file. I would simply go to this. If I don't have it available in apt, I would go to this, I would hit that. And simply running that is going to install it. So if you don't have it accessible, but first off, I always recommend search apt first. So search I2PD. Then apt install I2PD file here. And that will install it for you. If you can't do that, that's when you would download it and then use the dpkg command. Now once you have the I2PD installed, the next thing you're going to want to do is run it. So you may want to do status I2PD. If it's not already running and started, which mine happens to be already started, but let's say it wasn't, I would do system control start I2PD. And also, if you want it to start every boot, enable I2PD. Then you have it enabled and it'll start at every boot for you. And since it's running 24 hours a day, you're helping contribute to the network. You're also helping increase your own anonymity by contributing to that network. That's another great benefit here, is by contributing to the network, you're also increasing your own anonymity along with that of the other users and routers. So it's a team effort in I2P, just as it is with Tor network, just as it is with LokiNet and all the other MixNet style networks and Onion networks. That is going to be a team effort. The more people who participate in routing the traffic, the more anonymous it can become, along with the more users who are actively using it, the more anonymous it can become, because the more traffic we add to these networks, the more private they can be. So always participate if you can. And once you have it up and running, the next thing we can do is go into our editing of our shortcut, and we can even automate this. So check out my previous blog post on key authentication. This I do recommend, and the reason I recommend this is because if you don't have that, you'll have to type the password each time. Let me show you what I mean there. So when you first have it set up, if you have it without key authentication on your I2PD server, you will be brought up with a window like this, and it's going to ask you for the password. And notice how it won't load. Well, the reason for that is because it needs to be logged in, but I'm going to show you how to bypass that. Now I've logged in, so I'm going to show you how to bypass having to log in each time. So since I had to log in here, let's go ahead and click it again. I logged in. Now you can see my console has loaded. How nice. And if you have it running 24 hours a day, it's also going to become more reliable for you. So I'm going to make it so you don't have to log in. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to use something called SSH key authentication. Because this shortcut and scripts rely on SSH forwarding, it's going to need to be logged in. And that's why I had to type the password. But I'm going to show you how to get rid of that problem. And it's also going to reverse everything when you close that browser. So just did that. Now, what we need to do, we've got the shortcut set up. All you really have to do is copy this shortcut from the I2P-desktop, paste it onto your desktop. That's all you need to do with the shortcut. It's automatically going to have this command once you run the install.sh. So you're going to want to run I2P-desktops install.sh. I hope this isn't a lot of information for you. I'm doing the best to tell you what I think you need to know, and for those who want to understand it a little better, I'm telling a little more. So I'll summarize it at the end for you. Now, we're going to exit out of this. We don't need to be in that shortcut anymore because it's automatically there. What we have is I2PD running now, so you have it installed, you have it running. The next step we need to do is set up something called SSH key authentication. If you don't want to type the password each time, if you want it to automatically open, which I'll demonstrate. So here we can take a look and learn a little more about SSH on my blog post from 3 years ago. We can take a look. There's a video as well showing how important it is for passwords and how you need to check the fingerprint each time you SSH in. Now, if you have key authentication, that adds another benefit there because it automatically logs in using the SSH key pair that you have on your system. So what you need to do is scroll down past the fingerprint part and learn how to use password-free key authentication. And that's going to be ideal for this particular shortcut setup. So what we need to do there, we've set up our proper IP address for our I2PD server. We can go ahead and exit out of this. We don't need this anymore. At this point, we've already got everything we need. So what we need to do next is we need to do a login using this command here, and I'll copy and paste it. This is what I recommend you do. Copy this command, and we're going to use it to pass the key to set up this key authentication. So what you're going to do is just paste this, and then you're going to do the server here, the login and server of your I2PD server on your local area network. So once you've installed the I2PD, next step you want to do is copy this key. Go ahead and do that. Run this command and log in with it. It's going to ask for your password, and it's going to set it up so you don't have to type the password anymore. Okay, great. Now we have it. So we can test it again. Since we've set up our key authentication, which is also a security enhancement as well, we'll go ahead and now we can double click this, and we shouldn't have to type the password this time. And from now on, this shortcut should be automatic because we have our I2PD server here. We've set it to a static IP address. That's important because the start-I2P script relies on a static IP, and that static IP is always going to be in the file start-I2P and /user/bin. So important if you want it to be a reliable IP address and the scripts to work reliably, to just set this to a static IP on your LAN. Now what I can do is test it all out. And look at that, loaded right up. I didn't have to type the password this time in the terminal. Because I set up the SSH key authentication, it was automatically able to open that browser, and so everything works flawlessly. You don't have to worry about anything except double clicking this shortcut, and you have an I2P browser that's always ready to use. That's another benefit of this setup. You have a 24-hour I2PD server router, I should say. And what that allows you to do is it's automatically got tunnels ready for your use. So you don't actually have to wait for the tunnels to be built because you keep it running 24 hours a day. So we can take a look. I actually just started this server too, so normally it would load sites right away. Take my word for it, because it's just recently started. But there you go. As you can see, it's already working. We've got the I2P wiki open, and there we are. We have it working, and since you have it running 24 hours a day, which I recommend for all the I2P services, just simply double click the shortcut. If you follow my instructions today, which I will type up for you just because I care that much that everyone gets it. We're just gonna write this in. Okay, so first step 1, we're going to install I2PD. Step 2, install I2PD desktop on Gidea Onion, so you can get it at the Gidea Onion. Step 3, next thing we're going to do, SSH key authentication. After you set that up, edit, step 4, edit /user/bin/start I2P, enter login/password of I2PD router server. So your local area network, maybe it's a single board computer, maybe it's another computer on your network. So you're going to want to enter that where I showed you in the start I2P actual. Let's go ahead and so here's what we do. As mentioned earlier, you simply edit this to be where your I2PD server is. Make sure you have SSH enabled. That's another part of this that we're talking about. Step 5, make sure SSH is set up for I2PD server. So you want to ensure SSH is set up and accessible, because this shortcut relies on SSH forwarding, so you're going to need that. Step number 6, set up SSH key authentication. Step 7, profit. Double click shortcut and browse I2P anytime. So normally you have to wait, 10 minutes or so to get all the tunnels built. Well, in this case, with this I2PD remote setup, you don't need to wait for those tunnels to be built, because they're always running, as long as you have it set up like I have it, which is a 24 hours a day I2PD server. So I can go and I can choose very easily between this remote I2PD router and the local Java one. That also enhances your anonymity. That's another benefit. And diversity is a huge factor in our anonymity online, our privacy online. Diversity is something that is huge, because if you think about it, if you diversify the networks you use, you're not sitting on one network. You're not sitting in one route. It's another reason that the tunnels change frequently enough in I2P, because when you are a sitting duck, you're a sitting duck. When you just sit in one place, when you're using one VPN, well, you're just easy target right there. And so for your ethical human rights, autonomy, the human autonomy, and that's really what it all comes down to. This is about our human autonomy. Without privacy, we don't have freedom. That's a fact. There is no real guarantee of freedom without privacy. Privacy is the only right that can protect all our other rights. It's the only thing in the world. And that's why I have made such a point to cover it on this channel. It's not the only thing this channel is about. We also talk about other things, security. We also talk about open source intelligence, and they all kind of fit together, I think. And that's why I tried to make this channel something different. I'm trying to share some things. I'm also trying to, share some things I'm working on that I wanted to make and have on my desktop. So when you think about it, when you're browsing on this one, you're in a different location, you're in a different server, you're a different entire I2P router than you are when you're using the local one. And the same goes the other way. When you're browsing on this one, you're in a whole different location than this one. So you're spreading yourself out, you're adding more randomization to your usage habits, and you could have both open really anytime you want. So it's really neat that you can do that, and you can have this automated setup, in my opinion. And once you set up the SSH key authentication, as mentioned, you don't have to worry about typing in the password anymore for using the I2PD shortcut. I didn't cover that in the earlier video, so I really wanted to make a point to cover that. So I hope these steps help you. So if you have any questions on any of these steps, make sure to leave a comment below. It really helps the channel and the algorithm. The more comments, the more this channel can be recommended. So really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much to all the members out there. I really couldn't do this without you. You guys have really been a big help here and really have motivated me, as does all the comments, all the shares. All of that is really motivating to continue this channel. I haven't monetized this channel. This channel has been eligible for over 3 years, but I just haven't monetized it just because, that's not what this is all about. This is about something that I believe in, and also I offer products, things like a core boot laptop with Intel neutered. So guys, thanks again for your support. Let me know if you have any questions on this, so you can set this up on your own machine, whatever kind of computer you have. You can go ahead and do that. I also have it working on things like the Pinephone and Linux phone, so you can also use the I2P-desktop for that. Check out my previous videos there. Make sure to share the video, like it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any important tips and tricks. Thank you guys, and I will be back later with more on how to protect your security and privacy.